I want to check if data, then we can use the structuring to bring in the login user, and then inside the login user we have the logged in and as well the error data. So let's get that from the data, and then I want to dispatch a type of store user info with a payload data.login user. Then we have to set the error message as well. Sorry for that little noise. If we have an error data, we just want to set error, and I want to set error to error data.message. So in case the user happened to log in, let's say the login went successful, we have the login which returns a boolean either true or false. Then we can set the error, and then we can return a history.push inbox. So we just simply redirect to the inbox. Let's go ahead and give it a try and let's see. So let's say we try to log in, and you can see everything went perfectly. Let's go back here and refresh, and let's try it one more time. So refresh and hit, and you can see we just got redirected to the inbox route. And then next thing we have to work on is on the load user mutation. And let's scroll a little bit up, and beneath here I'm gonna type down load user mutation or load user graph, anyone you want to call it. So we have the graph here, and inside the graph we do have mutation, and inside here we do have load user. So in the load user we have the remember token, which is going to return the remember token. Then we do have access, we do have the remember token, we do have the email, and as well we do have the name. And let's quickly make use of that. Beneath here I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna call this one load user, and also load user data, and also we have load user mutation. Then we have to watch out for the load user, but before we watch out for the load user, we have to make use of it. First of all, what we can simply do is to make use of the load user by using the effect. And this one, we just use the effect whenever the component loads or component did mount. So first of all, we have to grab any saved remember token on the local storage. So we can say remember token is equals to local storage dot get item. We have the remember token. Then we can say if there is a remember token, and as well inside the this logic, we just want to quickly make sure that the remember token as well is not equal to null. So just follow along. There is a reason I did it this way, because of GraphQL. That's why I did it that way. So we have the load user, then right here we have the variables, and inside the variables we do have the remember token, and then we can pass the remember token. So even if we put down remember token this way, so it's also okay. So maybe you get an error and it's not working, you can change this to stored remember token, then you can map it directly to this remember token. And that's how we can use this login or load user So when I refresh, we are now actually going to be making a request because we don't yet have anything stored, but we do have an error here. It says, I think that's probably coming from the mutation. So we have this is a type of string, not Okay, this one is correct. This one is correct, but right here, I just simply have to pass a mutation, a remember token I mean, which is a type of string, and we need that. That should solve that error. We are not supposed to be getting any other error because in the mutation we do have a string, and right here we have a remember token. So remember, it's correct. So just go ahead and do a hard reload or clear your cache in case you experience that kind of error. So you can see right now it's trying to make use of load user, but it's not working because we don't have any remember token stored in our local storage. Then we also have to watch out for a case where the remember token was actually used. And the way we can do that is to use the load user data. So let's say we have a dependency here, and this is load user data. And right here we have a data, which is load user data. Then we have data, and right here we have access equal to data.load user. And I can say if we do have an access, then we want to dispatch all the information that we are getting with the type of store user info and a payload of data.load user. Then I can return a history.push inbox. And let's go ahead and save that. That's for load user data. That will eventually happen if the load user is triggered whenever we have a remember token from the local storage that is being found. Then we are going to bypass all these if statements, and then we just use the load user. Then if we get any response, it's going to return to the load user data, and we watch out for that, grab the data, and also check if we do have an access and redirect the user to the inbox. One more thing we have to do is to come over to the register components, and right here I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this and just come below here and paste that. I don't need this here. Okay, not this exactly. You can copy this rather. So you can copy that rather. Please don't cut it, just copy and paste. And I don't need all these. I don't need this one. So I'm just simply checking for the remember token. So if we do have a remember token, we just simply want to redirect that user to history.push to the inbox, and that's it, nothing else. So I'm gonna save, and let me make some couple of refresh, and everything is working perfectly. And in this section we are gonna work on the inbox, but before we proceed, I kind of realized that we need to correct this, and this is supposed to be an object with remember token. So just go ahead and correct that so that we don't get an error. And next thing we have to do is to make sure we handle the reducer for the store user info. I'm going to quickly click on our folder project and go over to the store, and there we can click on user reducer. And right here there are some couple things we have to put down. So in the user reducer we do have the user, which is null. We have the logged in, which is a false, and at first the user is not going to be logged in at all. And then we do have the user clicked, which is a false, Then we have the clicked user email, and then we have other users. Then lastly, we have message loading. So we are all gonna use all these things with time. Let's just proceed. Then right here, before any other thing, I have to import something from. So I think we have to go back and go into the types, which is correct. Then we have the store user info. That's all we need for now. Then I have the case of store user info, which is going to return an object. Then we have to spread the states. So what we are simply doing is to get every other thing in the states and reset that. And I just want to take in the logged in, and we can just pass in the payload.logged in. And logged in is going to be true because the initial value is false. And before we log in, we also have to store the remember token. So we can use local storage.set item, which is we can set the remember token to payload dot remember token. And hopefully this time around, if we try to log in, we should definitely have the remember token be stored in our local storage. So let's try that out and check everything. So I'm going to log in with user 1. So user 1 is logged in, and we can click on settings, not that settings, sorry. We can click on sorry, we have to click on this, not there. And now we can expand this a little bit and go to the local storage, and right here you can see we now have the remember token, and this will now help us to test out our load user. So let's see whether load user it's working perfectly, and it's not redirecting us. And let's kind of quickly check what the problem is. So right here I can simplify things by saying if remember token and remember token is not equal to that null, let's kind of console.log the remember token on this load user data. So let's kind of console.log this, and right here you can see we have the load user. We can quickly go over to Automutator and come over to right here in the load user. So in the load user right here, we are not using logged in, we are using access. Access is what we need, not logged in. And let's refresh again, and you can see automatically we got redirected to the inbox. And if we check our data, you can see we now have access as true. And because we have that remember token, let's try to visit the register component, and you see automatically it brought us back to the inbox, and that shows us that the load user is working pretty well, and also the routes of others like the login and also registration is working pretty well. And quickly, let's go ahead and work on the inbox section of our tutorial. I'm going to click on resources and move into the JS folder. And in the component, you can see the inbox folder, and I'm going to create two files. The first one is the header, and the second one is the inbox.js file. And I'm going to add one more folder called chat. Then inside this file, so before we proceed to make sure how to see how the design does look like, we have to work on the mutation and also how to get data. And you can recall right away that we now have access to our remember token. So whenever we open our inbox, we have to use that remember token to get the current user address currently using the application. Because if we try to emit the user information from a GraphQL returned, data, it's going to like emit it multiple times, which we don't want to. We don't want that in our application, but we just want an instance that we get an instance of a user just only once, not like multiple times. So you may not really understand what I just explained, but if you try it out with GraphQL, you will see you will get the data like multiple times, which we don't actually want. I'm going to create a get. First of all, we also have to use create one more mutation called get other users mutation. So I'm going to call this one a const of get other users mutation, and we've not yet imported. Let me import everything that we need here. So we need the use effects, the use state as well, and we also have to import from the Apollo clients. We also have to import from React router DOM. We also have to import from React Redux. So for this one, we need the GQL and as well as the use mutation. For this one, we just need the use dispatch, and for this one, we need the use history. I don't think we actually used it, but maybe in a case it's necessary, we are going to use it. And then you can actually see that we're using a container here, and that's actually from React Strap. So just go ahead and import that container. Then in our React Redux, we also have to bring in the use selector. So because of this other users mutation, we have to import, let me call this types. So we have to import from our types. So let me just go ahead and go back to folder. I'm going to the store actions, and let's select the types. So we have to bring in store other users and as well store user info. So let me just quickly do that. So we have everything imported that we need right now. And one more thing we have to do is to import the, let me just call it load user mutation, because we are going to grab a user here as I explained earlier. So this is going to come from the login file, which is basically inside the auth folder, and then we have the login file. And you know, in the login file, we actually do have this load user mutation, but we now have to export that. So I can just put an export there, and right here we can have access to load user mutation. So let's kind of check if it's correct by holding control and we hover over that, and I don't think it's correct. We didn't spell it correctly, so let me just copy this and come over here, paste that, and so right now we have the correct one. So let's go ahead and finish our get other users mutation. So we use the GQL, and we have the mutation, and also my email. Remember, in our schema we are using my email, so that's just what we need. And then we have a function there called get all users, which is going to accept my email, and we pass that my email, and we are only going to return the sub value or the sub data of other users. So in case you are confused, you can always refer back to the GraphQL schema. So when we come over here, you can see in get other users, we are returning the get other user schema, and the get other user schema, it's, did we create it? Okay, we have get all users, not get other users. So let me just highlight this. Okay, I forgot to add schema. Yeah, we made a correction to all our schemas and we added schema. So just go ahead and make that fix, and that solves it for now. And the next thing we have to do is to make sure that if a user is not logged in, we don't want the user to have access to our inbox or the inbox route. So we can just go ahead and grab all these codes here and come over to the inbox. So let me close this, come over to the inbox and paste that. So let me close that pane. So we are just simply saying that if a user doesn't have a remember token, we don't want that user in the inbox. So let's just go ahead and try to check it in our browser. And before we check it in our browser, we have to connect that route. So let's come over to the route, and I'm just going to clear this, and I can actually remove this. I think we also can use the login to login. Okay, actually what this route is saying is that any other route, you just take the login component and render for us. Like if we do have a route that does not exist, we just want to render the login component, nothing else. But every other thing here is correct. So just clear those spaces, and that's 2. And we have our inbox connected right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and refresh, and let me do a hard refresh over there. Still not connected. The problem is inbox is not defined. We don't have it imported. So I'll comment that import over there, and that solves it. And one more refresh, and it's supposed to be connected now. So just go ahead and I guess maybe I'm not spelling something correctly, because it's saying, okay, we already have it imported, just that the history, say history is not a function. Okay, we actually have a little problem here. So let me just close this file. The problem we have is that I didn't bring in the history over here. So refresh one more time, and let's see. Okay, we have our inbox route connected. One more thing I think we are not getting right is for the fact that if we are connected, we actually supposed to be redirected. Okay, we got redirected back to the inbox. So this is supposed to be back to just the home page or the login, anyone. So let's refresh one more time, and yeah, we should definitely come back to the login. So we have our inbox route working perfectly. I'm just going to open that. I always do close it. So I'm going to log in with user1 at gmail.com, and password is Samuel, and hit the login. Yes, and I'm just going to save this. So sorry for that little disturbance. So this is supposed to redirect us to okay, actually guys, what's going on here, you can see that this is trying to like hinder application from coming up, because probably the I don't know why, but let me kind of refresh and see. So the problem we had earlier was that we don't yet have a remember token in our local storage. So this was trying to pick up, and we got a lot of redirects. Okay guys, I actually figured out what the problem is right now. We're actually making a redirect if we have a remember token, not when we don't have a remember token. So let me say I come over here and refresh. We are not supposed to be redirected again. We are supposed to be on the inbox. So let me clear that perfectly. So let me come over to the application and go to local storage, and I'm gonna delete everything stored in our local storage. So when I refresh, I'm supposed to be redirected back to the login, and right now when I try to log in again, I'm supposed to be redirected to the inbox. So we don't actually have that error anymore. So the problem was that we actually was being redirected because we do have a remember token. So just put the exclamation mark here, which means it's not a remember token. Then we can just come back to our home page. So back to what we are doing before. So on a redirect to the inbox, we just simply want to load current user. I'm gonna use the load user mutation, and I've not actually added that, so we can just simply do that immediately. So we call it load user and load user data, which is going to use the mutation, and we have the load user mutation. So actually, I hope this is imported. Okay guys, this is load user mutation, not login user. So let's make that correction. I can clear this and come over here and export this. So this is load user mutation, and we have the right one there. So whenever we load here, we have to pass the variables, which is going to take in an object of key value pairs. Then we just pass the remember token, and this is going to load this current user. One more thing we have to do is to get other users as well. I'm going to bring in the use mutation. We have the get other users mutation. I'm going to call this one get other users, and then we have other users data. And we have one more thing to add over here. So in case we got this user currently loaded, which means the current user being gotten from the remember token, we want to store that current user in a state value. So I'm going to use the use state over here, and I'm going to put a default value to null, and this is going to be called this user. And we also have set this user. And as well, if we do get other users, we also want to store other users in the states. So this is quite surprising I'm doing it this way, is because I've really tried a lot to actually just use the let's say from the login, whenever we log in, we just emit or store the current user in the state. But whenever I did that, it got to a point that it keeps storing and reoccurring. So I had to like do it this way in order for it to work perfectly. So we call this one other users state data, and then we have set other users state data. So it's also a null value. So let me quickly add the dispatch over here. So I can say dispatch is equal to use dispatch. I can just clear this. I don't need this use history because it's not needed over here. So quickly, we have to watch out for the load user data using the use effect, which is going to have the dependency of load user data. And inside this callback, so I want to grab the data from the load user data, and I can say if data, then we can have we can get the access from the structuring of data.load user. So I think you should be familiar from this from the login file. Then we can actually check if we do have an access. We just want to simply set this user data, or set the user to data.load user. And also what we want to do next is the fact that once we have this user that we actually did set here in our state, we also want to watch out for that user. So I can also use the use effect, and we have a dependency of this user. Then inside this callback, we have to do some couple of things. So first of all, let's make sure that whatever we've been doing is working. So I can actually say if we have a user in our state, I just want to console.log out that user. So let's do that and refresh. And right away you can see whenever we do refresh, we now have a user in our state, and that happens to be the user with the remember token that we have in our local storage. So that user is now on our local on our local state, and I want to store the user in our store. So I can now say store this user. We can now use the use dispatch, and we can dispatch a type of store user info, which is going to have a payload of this user. And then also, whenever we now have a user, we now have to get other users. So I can just say get other users. So we can say get other users. We have a variable of my email, and this my email, it's going to take in the current user email. So you can record that in the schema we do have other users over here, which is going to take in my email or this user email, the current user email, and then it's going to use the alt mutator get other users inside our app GraphQL alt mutator. So right here is going to get other users for us. So we don't even need to use our email, but okay, we actually need it because we just want to return other users that doesn't have the same email as the current user email that's using the application. So that's it. And we actually have get other users. Then we have to watch out for the get other users data. So we can say use effect of a dependency of other users state. Okay, state data. First of all, we also grab the data from other users data. So let me just make sure everything is correct so that we don't run into an error. Okay, we are using other users data, not other users state data. So this is other users data. And if there is a data, we just want to grab some things from the data, and also we also want to grab some things from get all users. So for the data, we get all users, and then from the get all users, we grab other users. So other users is coming from our resolver. We have other users right here. So it's gonna be an array of strings. So the next thing is to set other users state data, and then we can pass other users. And quickly let's check if we have other users. So in the use effect, we can watch out for this is curly braces, then we have a dependency of other users state data. So if we do have other users loaded, so I just want to console.log other users state data. So this is other users, not other user. I'm gonna make that correction faster. So we have other users over here, and we have get other users as well, not get other user. So everything is working connected perfectly, and let's go ahead and refresh. We should get other users in our console log over here. It says get other users is not defined. Get other users is not defined. We already have that fixed, and yeah, we have that fixed. And let's kind of check back and see. Let's kind of refresh. Okay, it's connected now, and right here we are not getting my email because it's not a type of string. I actually said if we do get this user, that's when we are gonna make that request with get other users. We actually do have this user, and I don't know why we are not able to get the email address ASAP. This is not null. Or let's kind of make it this way. If we actually have this user.access, if it's true, so let me say if it's true, then we can make that request. So let's refresh and wait. Okay, we don't have any error anymore, so that fixes it. Or that doesn't fix it because we are still seeing a console. Okay, no, it says required type of string was not provided, which means we are not passing a string over here, and I don't know the reason. So guys, it wasn't working fine, but what I did that made it work was that I used I don't know, I tried to use the structuring and it worked, but I don't know, it was being rejected before, but for some reason it just worked. So let me try that again, and I don't know what the problem was. It's working fine, everything is working fine, because I know we don't actually have a problem. So we are returning an array of object, but these objects are strings, and we have to convert that into real objects. And the way we can do that is to watch out for other users' data. So from here, we have to create a new array for users, and then we have new users array. It's gonna be an array, and then we can convert to array of objects. We have array of objects, so spell things correctly, and beneath that we have to watch out for other users data. So in case we do have other users data, because the first data that is being inserted there, it's a null, then we can say other users state. We have state data dot for each of them. We have to look through it, and we can have access to each of them. Then right here, let's just say each of them is a user, and then inside this object we can just pass in the new users dot array dot push. We have to push a JSON dot pass. We have to now pass each of those users.